Well, okay, so you quit your job and you put your pension on the line, and your wife was not only fully on board with that, but perversely enough encouraged you to do so. How has it? How has the financial support that made your continued existence and also the operations that you've undertaken, how has that manifested itself since? Like you don't have your pension and the government behind you, but obviously you've gathered resources around you personally and practically. How tell me how that came about?
Well, I'll add this piece because that was my big concern, and Catherine said to me, and she believed it. This is all in that same conversation. She said, "I don't care if we end up living in a tent. We will not go back to our maker." Instead, we didn't try to help these children. So that helped ease my mind because I thought, well, then okay, if we lose our house, now the blessings did come. Glenn Beck was the person who actually funded the rescue operation that you see depicted in the film, that very first one. He got us started, put a huge amount of faith and frankly risk in doing that. But that was going to get us only about 6 to 8 months before we would be in trouble. But what happened was the success happened. The peace that I felt in making the decision to go was that new path that I couldn't see everything, but it felt right. It felt good. It felt godly. And I knew we'd be okay. And we've never had a worse month than the month before. We've only grown. Success breeds success. Donations start coming in. Opportunities come in. And frankly, I think I'll be better off financially as I look at my future than I would have been otherwise.
Right now, we should just dwell on that for a minute. So we just want to dwell on how unlikely that is. Eh? So let's just go through this. So you make this crazy decision to quit your job and to forgo your pension, even though you've basically vested it. And you're well into your career. You're to the point where, in principle, you could have contemplated retiring and sitting to drink Mai Tais on the beach in the Caribbean, which I wouldn't recommend, by the way, as a retirement plan. And instead, you decide that, and with your wife, that you guys are willing to, risk living in a tent with your kids, but you're going to do this come hell or high water. And the consequence of that is that, perversely enough, you're actually more financially secure and you have more opportunities than you would have otherwise had by a lot. Right. So that's worth thinking about, right? That's really worth thinking about because you threw yourself all in, which is what you're supposed to do. And not only did that work on the fight side, because you have been able to rescue these children and to continue this endeavor, but none of the things that you thought you would lose, you actually ended up losing.
That's correct. And I'm thinking of the words you just said 5 minutes ago about when you take on the challenges, you lose that weakness that you otherwise would have. I'd rather I don't want to be weak with a pension. And like you said, I was able to be stronger, and that strength is the thing that frankly allowed me to expand my possibility of making more income and doing more things. In fact, I often journal, Jordan, often when I have the biggest challenges of my life that come and hit in the face with this or that, I take note what blessings came, what good things came. And sometimes it's 90% of the good things before me sprung out of that horrific challenge, that the darts thrown at me, whatever it was. And so the principle that you're teaching really has played out accurately in my life over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I think well, it makes sense in some sense. Look, I mean, if we wanted to just think about it practically, I mean, you're going to become stronger, more confident, more credible, and a better communicator in precise proportion to the burdens that you decide voluntarily to confront and master. Like, obviously, because how could it be any other way? And then what that's going to mean is that when you go communicate with people and you tell them what you're doing, they're much more likely to jump on board because you have the charisma that goes along with having the stories to tell and those encounters to relate and the success you've generated. And so then people are going to offer to help. You're not even going to have to ask them.